Welcome to this session, which will have a special emphasis on strengthening our legs, which is a wonderful thing to do no matter what stage you are in life. I think if you're younger, it helps you avoid injuries if you're playing sports and such. When you're older, it helps you avoid the risk of falling. So that's the emphasis. Some of that is through standing poses. And then typically we'll start with a little bit of breathing in the lying down position on the mat. We have minimal prop use in this class. So I've got a couple of yoga blocks, a blanket, and a bolster. And that's about it. Let's begin. Lying on my back. I'm going to bend my legs, feet on the floor. This is a very warming way to start a session because you're working strong with your breath and also using your legs as a pump for the breath. So bend your knees into your chest. Hold your hands at the front of your knees. Keep your feet and your knees a little bit apart. And then exhale, draw the thighs close to the ribs. Inhale, push away. Deepen the breath as we go along through a few cycles, if that works for you. So the breath might become a little bit more pronounced as we do several more cycles. The inhalation allows you to fill your chest and creates space, and the exhalation, the abdomen, the core muscles get switched on. And then we'll finish with the feet back on the floor and your arms by your side. And let's do just a couple of pelvic tilts. So tail moves away from you, tailbone moves towards you in a very small movement. We're still in the warming up phase. And just a gentle rocking through the pelvis. Bring your hands over your navel center. And then feel your breath maybe when you exhale in a posterior tilt. And then inhale, feel the chest and the abdomen in an anterior tilt. So working closely through the breath in any of the movements that we do today. The breath always modulating what you do. Good, and then we'll bring that to a halt. Let's loosen up the back a little bit in a really gentle way. So bring your legs and your feet all the way together. Move your arms out to the side and then drop your knees to one side. Bring them back up. Here we go, using the breath again. I'm going exhale, side. Inhale, pulling up. Feels nice to rotate my head and neck a little. Next time you drop your knees to one side, then keep them to that side. Bring the arm over and use your hands and your arms to come all the way up to standing. And once you're standing, take Tadasana with your feet a little bit apart, your arms loose by your side, and softening behind your knees. Then let's go back and forth on the 2 feet, one side, then the other, in a movement that is, what do we call this? It's like walking in place, or kind of kneading your feet. So can you tune into that level where you feel the whole sole of each foot, the backs of the toes, the heels? This is what cats do, isn't it, when they're in that kind of cuddling frame of mind? One foot and then the other. Good. And when you come to a standstill now, check again that the knees are slightly flexed. And then let's do a sideways lean, leaning out to one side, and the weight comes onto that foot without lifting the opposite foot, and then leaning the other way. And as we go through this really simple movement, you could test your balance here, going right near to the edge, sideways. And back in center, let's go forward and back. So forward, there's your toes doing a little bit more work, back and your heel bones. And forward and back, keep your shoulders relaxed, your facial features soft. And then let's see what happens when you make it a circular movement. So kind of rolling right around the whole circumference of your feet. And I taught this to a friend of mine, and she said that it made her a little seasick. So I hope that's not the case for you. And then go the other way. Good. And always righting your balance back to center and pausing in Tadasana. Lovely. Let's take Uttanasana, standing forward bend. And just as a cue for your own body, bring your hands into the tops of your thighs, the bottom of your torso. Soften at the backs of your knees and take a hinge forward from that hip fold. And then let's go a little deeper as you can here into forward fold or forward bend position, bringing your hands down onto your legs and your buttock bones up towards the ceiling. And through this, my knees are slightly bent. Feel your breath again through the navel center and maybe draw up a little bit more on your exhalations. And we're going to come up with the arms forward and up. So anchor your feet well. Inhale, bring your arms forward and all the way up to the ceiling. And exhale down to the side. And the emphasis in this session isn't so much on arms and arm strength, but we will be doing some standing poses. So grab your yoga block. And of course, in the standing poses, we use the arms to good effect. And grab your yoga block and place your flat of your palms against the side of the block. And then bring the arms up overhead. And feel as you press into the blocks with a nice strong pressure that the upper arm muscles begin to engage. And the elbows not necessarily locked here, but the muscles above and below the elbow joint strong and pressing against the block and reaching up, and at the same time reaching down through your feet. Good. And then release from that overhead stretch and block to the side. And once more, bring your arms up. Now we've moved the center of gravity away from the legs and the feet. So go ahead and anchor the feet once more. Feel the whole outline of each foot, right foot, left foot. And then let's do an alternate arm stretch. So one arm stretches up a little bit more, and then the other arm. And find a breathing pattern that works for you here. Someone told me that this movement is called pandiculation, which is a fancy word for stretching, I think. And then last one, both arms straight up and lower them down to the side. Let's take Uttanasana one more time, and starting with the arms up, inhale, turn your palms forward, soften a little bit at the back of the knees, and dive forward into your forward bend. Good. Feel that hip crease go a little deeper as you lift your tailbone. And in this position, you're very well equipped to look at your feet, and especially your toes. Maybe here you can open the spaces between the toes. I'm just moving with my fingers, my big toes in a little bit more to the center. And all the toes, down to the pinky toe, all stretched. Good. Feel the weight at the forefoot and drill in the heels a little bit more. And then we're bringing the arms forward and up and coming all the way up to standing. And exhale down. Good. This is a good place to add our Utkatasana, chair pose. So from Tadasana, let's say we bend our knees a little bit more. We hinge forward from the tops of our thighs and then bring the arms up alongside the ears. So this pose is affectionately called chair pose, but really it's the chair that's not there. And we're kind of looking for the seat through the sitting bones and reaching back. Feel the weight divided, forefoot and heel. My weight's predominantly on my heels, so I'm going to spread the load a little bit more. And inhale and come up, and exhale, lower the arms. I think we'll do that all over again. Knee bend, hinge, arms up and reaching out. Maybe you can replicate that feeling of having the yoga block between your hands and pressing firmly against it. And the buttock bones move back, seeking that comfort of the chair that's not there. And inhale, come up. And exhale down. One more. Knee bend, hinge, arms, reach back. Another cue for that movement of the tailbone back and up is to move the top of your shin bones back. And up we come, and we've done good work there, and arms down by your side. I'm going to adopt a kneeling position on my mat, and for my own comfort, taking up a blanket on top of the mat for my lunges. So we could start in the up kneeling position. And then let's say take left leg forward into a lunge. And I've got a nice right angle behind the left knee. And then I didn't really plan ahead enough here, But I'm going to take my yoga blocks on either side of my front foot, my left foot. And if I come forward and rest my hands onto the block, I can get a nice lift through my chest again and opening up the corners of the chest. Good. So I've bent my front knee a little bit more. And now I'm going to straighten that leg for a hamstring stretch and move my hips back towards my back foot and then take my lunge forward. So here's an opportunity to loosen up through the hips, get modest stretch through the hamstrings of the front leg, at the same time as a very nice hip stretch on the back leg. If your arms are longer or you're more flexible, you could have your hands down onto the floor on either side of the left foot. But I like the feeling of using the blocks because it keeps my chest well lifted. It's always easier to breathe that way. Next time you bring your hips back towards your back leg, maybe you could, I don't know, it's kind of an odd movement, but rotate your hips a little bit. Circle your hips. Just loosening up there. Okay, we're going to switch now. And so drawing the left leg back and stepping right leg forward. That's an exercise by itself if you don't use your hands, but using your hands is fine. And back to my blocks on either side of my front leg. I'm starting with a right angle behind my knee, but I'm going to bend a little bit more so that angle is slightly acute. And then as I draw my buttocks back, front leg straightens and forward and back. Next time that you come forward, press on the top of the back foot. So I've got, rather than toes tucked under, foot is flat. And then get that little extra bit of hip stretch on the back leg. All right, and then lastly, we could just see what that's like. It's a kind of odd movement, but it feels nice through the pelvis to be able to move it freely. Okay, good. And then we're going to come out of our lunge and all the way, not quite out of the lunge. We're going to take a position of up kneeling again and take the left leg out to the left side. And keep your block on the right side and outside the right leg. I hope I haven't lost you there. It's just a movement into Parigasana, the gate pose. So a little bit more of warming up through the hips and the lateral body. So I've got my left leg to the left and my block is on the right side, leaning onto that block with my right hand. And that block can be on low or high end or somewhere in between. So leaning my support onto my right hand and the left arm up towards the ceiling. Left arm up towards the ceiling, turn your palm towards the right side, and then let's take that arm overhead and extend the whole top side of your body here. So on a diagonal line. It's a little bit like the standing pose, Parsva Konasana. And then inhale and come up. And let's go the other direction. And left hand, left leg, palm upwards. So the arm and the leg line up. And then this time, right arm overhead. Take a lean out to the left side to whatever extent you can. There's a lot going on in the straight leg, so you're getting a adductor stretch. The inner thigh is stretching. And then inhale and come up. And we're going to switch sides. So moving the block across to the left side and right leg stretched out to the right. So my right foot is on the floor. To whatever extent you can do that, it's an ankle rotation. So best you can do there. And then lean onto the block with your left hand. Bring your right arm up towards the ceiling. And then create a reach through that arm to the left side at the same time as you're stretching your right leg back to the right. Good. Unhunch your shoulders. And then coming all the way up. And swapping directions without the block. Right hand, right leg, palm up. Those two are in a parallel line. And then let's reach for the ceiling with the left arm. And then as you lean over to the right side, lift the right ribs a little bit. So you don't want them to collapse, and it might give you a little bit more lateral stretch. Beautiful. And breath brings you up, inhaling, and knees together. And we move on now to Trikonasana. Keep the blanket for later on for sitting and Shavasana. So take Tadasana in the center of your mat. And take a moment and connect with that basic pose. Relax your shoulders. And then step out a little more than a meter's distance. Turn your feet to the right. And extend the arms out. And as you lengthen the arms out in line with your shoulders, press down a little bit between, with the palms pressing down, so you feel your arm muscles again. And then let's go right and lengthening out over the right leg. We've opened up the lateral body in a few of the warm-up poses. So emphasize first telescoping the ribs out to the right side. Roll your shoulders back from your neck. Good. And then lift your tailbone slightly. I like that adjustment, and I don't intend for it to happen, but it seems like I can go a little deeper into the pose when I've got that anatomy right. Good. Inhale and come up. Take a moment, press down through your palms, turn your feet all the way to the left. And then let's reach left. And left hand down below your shoulder, right arm up towards the ceiling. Those arms make a vertical cross with the body, and then lengthen out the ribs to the left side, away from the left hip. Good. Now you're in hamstring territory here. So as you lift your tailbone, and if you go a little deeper, be respectful of your hamstring stretch. And then inhale and come up. And arms out wide. Turn your feet to center and step back to Tadasana. Back in Tadasana, feet a little bit apart. Feel the outline of your right foot, your left foot, your toes stretched, and the balance between the forefoot and the heel pressure. Relax your shoulders. All right, we're going to repeat Tadasana, but I want to intersperse another pose or a warm-up to the second round of Tadasana. So step out wide. Turn your feet out about 45 degrees. And come into a knee bend where the knees draw back slightly, point more towards the middle of your feet or the little toe side of your feet. And then rest your right hand onto your right leg and reach your left hand down as though you're moving slightly to the right side towards the right foot. So a slight rotation. Feel the lateral body on the left side, from the left hip to the left hand. And then inhale and come up. I'm going to keep my legs bent here. It's a strengthening movement for your quads. And then left hand, left leg. Press down through your left hand. Reach down through your right hand towards your left foot. Good. Stretch all along the side of your right side of your body. Inhale and come up. Good. Straighten your legs. By itself, that's a strengthening movement for your leg muscles. Let's go one more round. A knee bend. Drawing the knees back. Right hand, right leg, right just above your knee. Reach across, stretch that left side from your hip to your fingertips. And back up. Keep the knee bend. Reach the right arm out and stretch it. And then right hand, right leg. Inhale, straight legs. And walk your feet back in to Tadasana. Like you did in the very beginning of the session, find the balance of the weight forward and back. You might do a little sway to discover that for yourself. And then, as I mentioned, let's step out for this next round of Trikonasana. Turn your feet to the right. Extend your arms out. Press down through your palms. And then stretch over that right leg. And feel that side body opening up nicely. And right hand down and left arm up. Your feet are well anchored. And the tailbone lifting up. I just find that I've got a little bit more freedom in that side body stretch now. Bring yourself back up and turn your feet opposite. Stretch left. How much opening can you get before you bring your hand down and the opposite arm up? Good. Lift your tailbone. Extend to whatever degree you can at this point. Last round of Trikonasana. Inhale, come up. Turn your feet front and center and step all the way back in. And Uttanasana in the relaxed position. Step feet hip width apart. Fold your arms. Hold your elbows. Stretch up first. Soften your knees. Hinge from the top of your thighs. And come out and down. Feel the quality of yielding the weight into the foot, into the feet, forefoot and heel, and a nice rebounding of energy from your grounded feet through your legs up into your hips. Draw the navel center up. Release your head and your neck down. Beautiful. And drop your arms and roll back up to standing. Let's take the bent leg pose, warrior two pose. Step out a little over a meter distance. Turn your feet to the right. Lift up your arms and extend right to your finger pads. Press down through your palms. And take a knee bend. And you worked a little bit of this inside thigh stretch, your groin stretch, previously in the warm-up pose. Then draw your right knee back a little bit so it points more towards the little toe side of your right foot. Keep a reach back into your left arm and your left leg. And then lower your shoulders but lift your sternum. Good. Breathing softly. And looking forward, straight right leg, feet to the left. Good. And basically you're taking a lunge with the left leg. And then drawing that knee back somewhat to get the inner left thigh open. Keep reaching back with your right arm, your right leg. You can lift through the sternum again. Feel the back muscles supporting you. And then looking forward towards the camera and inhale and come up and feet to center. And let's continue into Parsvakonasana. Actually, step in and get a block for Parsvakonasana, that very lateral stretch. And then take your step out, turn your feet to the right, and stack your block up on the outside of your right foot. I'm going to keep it on the high end. And the block is near to my ankle and shin bone. Good. Did I say warrior one? I meant warrior two. And extend your arms out sideways. Bend your right leg. I did not mean warrior two. I meant Parsvakonasana. Oh dear. All right. Lean over your right leg. Get that nice lateral stretch and bring your right hand down onto the block and your left arm up towards the ceiling. That's enough done right there. Let's tidy it up. Move your right knee back towards your right arm and feel into your back leg. That's a supporting leg, so the sole of the foot, left foot presses down. And then we've got this block on the high end or the low end. Adjust it for where it works for you. So I'm going to lower it down to mid-range. And then finally bring the left arm overhead alongside your left ear, or bring your ear close to your left arm. Keep reaching back into your back leg. And let's come up with the block. Inhale, lifting your arm, lifting up out of the pose. Straight both legs and turn your feet to the left. Extend your arms out even with your shoulders. Bend your left leg and reach over your left thigh. Your left ribs are going to come very close to your left thigh, and then left hand down, right arm up. We have this way with our bodies, especially if we've lived long enough, where one side might be quite different than the other side. So take your support underneath your left hand to whatever height you need. I'm still going to lower it down a little bit, and then take your right arm overhead. Reach out to the left side with your right arm, and back through your right foot with your right leg. Let your arm bring you up, right arm up, straight left leg. Turn your feet front and center, and step all the way back in. Well done. Let's do one more exercise. It's not strictly a standing pose, but it's a very good strengthening pose for your legs. So step out wide again. Turn your feet out 45 degrees. Bring your hands onto your thighs and bend your legs. Taking the bent leg position, move your tailbone back and up slightly, and as much as you can, move your knees towards the line of the middle of your feet or the little toe side of your feet. We've already been there for, 10 or 15 seconds. We're going to stay a little bit longer. Press into your left hand, left leg. Draw your shoulders down, and then rotate and look to the right side. Turn your head, turn your shoulders, turn your upper part of your back. Keep the tailbone lifted. Good. Back to center. Press into your right hand strongly, and then allow the trunk to rotate. Look around with your line of vision to the left side. Turn your shoulders. Keep the legs bent, turn back to center, and then little by little, straighten your legs and come up and step all the way in. So good work. We're going to take Prasarita Padottanasana, the wide leg forward bend. So stepping out and possibly a little bit wider than you've been in the previous poses. And before we go anywhere with this, have a look at your feet and all 5 toes, each foot squarely facing forward. Draw up through your inner thighs, from your inner knees to your groins and to your pelvis. And then I've got my blocks handy, hopefully. And I'm going to take 2 blocks. You could do this with 1 block too, but it's just a little more even for me. And in a forward bend, bring your hands down onto the top of the blocks. These are on the high end, and that's exactly what I want. I want to be able to straighten my elbows, lift my chest, and feel my chest high and lifted, light and bright as it opens up in that forward direction. Notice your way your weight divides on your feet. Are you back on your heels? And can you spread that weight load to the base of the big toe, the base of the little toe? Draw your shoulders back, draw your navel up, and still keep with all of that breathing evenly. Bend your knees a fraction and come all the way up, hands onto your hips. We're going to take that forward bend for one more time, and I can reduce my props and just have the single block in front of me. When I come down into my forward fold, left hand onto the block, right hand onto my right hip. Now we're ready to rotate. all the work that we did on the lateral body will help us do this. So keep the length of the left side and then look to the right side and turn, and the right shoulder coming back and the right elbow. And that's enough first round. There'll be a second round. Let's change hands. Left hand, left hip. Straight right arm, lift up, let the chest be high and bright again, and then look left. Bring that left elbow back, the left shoulder. Good. You might feel this in your right leg stretch. I certainly do. And then back to center. And we go last round. Left hand onto the block, right hand, right hip. Good. And if you're ready to move into the arm and shoulder stretch, right arm up towards the ceiling. And it's absolutely fine just to keep your hand onto your hip and work the shoulder back. That's a beautiful shoulder movement. And let's change. Starting with your hand onto your hip and then rotating, and as you've turned to the best of your ability to the left side, see if it's there for you to extend up your left arm. Good. And then releasing to take support again, two hands onto the block. And it would be a shame at this point if we didn't take the pose to one more level. If you are able to here, do away with the block. Bring your hands down onto your mat. Lift your tailbone high and walk your hands back towards the line of your feet. Release your head down and your buttocks up. And so I don't sit back like we were doing in chair pose. Keep your weight strongly to your forefoot. Lift the inner thighs. And we've done well here. And let's walk hands forward. I'm going to, from this position, shuffle my feet in. Heel, toe, until my feet are close together and rolling all the way up. Well done. Give your legs a little shake out. We're not quite finished with them. Take a position where you're facing the short end of the mat. Come down into kneeling on your mat as a preparation for downward facing dog pose. So all fours kneeling, not rushing into it. This is a really good approach I use for going into dog pose. I draw the upper spine up towards the ceiling, draw my navel towards my backbone, straightening my arms, tuck the toes under, and then do your lift off and come all the way up. So hips up, straighten through your arms, and let's walk the dog. So one heel and then the other heel. And a little bit like you did in the early part of the session where you were kneading your feet. So feel probably more at the forefoot and little by little possibly getting the heel closer to the ground or all the way down. And then come to a halt without any movement of the feet and a static stretch through the backs of the legs, from the backs of your knees to your heels. And then happily coming to ground and knees down, elbows down. Draw the elbows back towards the knees. fold the hands and rest your head onto your folded hands. Take a couple more releasing breaths there, where on the exhalations you let go into that sense of sighing any effort out. And then lifting up. So if in your version of child's pose that is feeling too strong on the knee bend, you can always have a block to sit back on, or 2 blocks, or a bolster there behind the knees. But for my demonstration here, I'm going to bring my arms forward again, and as much as possible extending the arms out over several exhalations. Exhale, lengthen the arms out. And then bend your elbows, bring your elbows down onto the mat, and bring your elbows back towards your knees. Inhale, press your hands down, lift your chest into a little back arch. Exhale, extend your arms forward and bring your chin towards the notch of your throat. Inhale, come up into your very tiny back bend and lead with your breastbone forward. Exhale, long arms forward, elbows are lifted, stretch your back muscles. Let's go back and forth for a few more rounds. Next time your arms are forward, then lift your hips off your heels. Bring your knees in a little bit. And in the same spirit of moving through your spine, on the exhalation, lift your spine up towards the ceiling. We're going from cat to cow and dipping the spine. Want to keep the navel center lifted up even when you're in your back bending position. When your chest is up, your navel is up too. Good. And then bring your hands back towards your knees. Take your crouch position of child's pose, buttocks to heels. And when you take your arms out in front of you now, make them into a wide position, a V position. And then press your right hand down, lift your head and your chest, and look towards your left hand. Do a little rotation there. And back to center. And look towards your right hand, do a slight rotation. And back to center. And once more, pressing into one hand and turning towards that side. And last one, lift up and rotate. And then we'll bring a bolster in for supported child's pose. This is the setup that I use for child's pose. So I've got my long bolster, and my two blocks. So for anyone who needs a break from the knee bending, the compression on the knees, you can do the same pose where your torso is resting onto a chair in front of you. So a seated position on one chair and then the other chair in front of you to rest your torso on. And it's very comforting and relaxing that way. But for us, for the most part, the blocks in front of you of the bolster and drawing the torso long over the bolster and then finding your way to the blocks where your hands are supported onto the blocks. When you rest your head onto your support, onto that soft cushion, you could turn your head to the side or rest your forehead onto the bolster. I prefer that kind of straightforward position so everything is aligned the same on both sides. And you might find your way to the same lengthening through the back muscles, the fascia on the sides of the body, the back of the body, on consecutive exhalations. Right, and let's move on from child's pose. So this version, in some ways that we do child's pose, we're supported by soft props, and it becomes a very relaxing, restorative pose. But if you use the blocks like this, it keeps you a little bit more active and alert. And we're taking one last pose before legs up the wall. So have a seated position. I'm going to sit up onto a folded blanket in cross-legged. I was well trained in my early stages of yoga to sit cross-legged and do a little rocking side to side to make sure that I was sitting on my sitting bones. So take your time to arrive at that point. And then once you're seated, bring your hands onto the front of your knees. So your hands cup over your patella, over your knees. And allow yourself to sit back towards your tailbone and lean back into the back of your body. Draw your navel up from this position. And with a light pull onto your knees, then draw yourself forward and up and lift your sternum high. You might look up at this point. And then we can work with the breath here. Let's say exhale, leaning into the back body. Inhale, pulling ourselves up. Shoulder blades come closer together. And it's like when you lean back that you've got a little hammock of the muscles back there to lean into. And when you pull forward, the arms are helping you lift and open the corners of your chest. One more exhalation like that. Notice which leg you've got in front, which leg in front of the other leg. Stretch your legs out for a moment and cross your legs the opposite way. Once your legs are crossed, reach over right hand, left knee. Cast your left arm behind you and prop yourself up onto your fingertips there. With a light pull without lifting the left leg, then turn your line of vision to the left side. Your head turns, your neck. Roll your left shoulder back. Open up the left corners of the chest. And then back to center. And let's go right. Left hand, right knee. Bring your right hand back a little further so it lines up with your left buttock. Make sure you're not lifting your right knee here and drawing yourself all the way around. Head turns, shoulders turn, ribs turn. Good. And back to center. And stretch your legs out. In Dandasana, separate your feet slightly and flex your feet so that they're pointing straight up towards the ceiling. Use your hands next to you to draw yourself up to your full height. As you're looking at your feet, let's go through this range of movement. So your toes towards the floor and down, and the front of the ankle gets a maximum stretch. Draw your toes back towards your knees, and then see the kind of wrinkling at the front of the ankle, and then the back leg is stretched. Find neutral, where your ankles feel a little bit more relaxed, but your feet are still vertical. And Dandasana. And Dandasana with your arms up. Lift the weight of your rib cage away from your waist. The waist away from the pelvis. Back ribs too. Back waist. Good. And then we're going to move into lowering your arms into legs up the wall. Viparita Karani. And this part is up to you. You can take a support underneath your buttocks, just a simple blanket, or I'm going to use my big bolster for more elevation. And we'll be there for just a few minutes. There's a knack getting into this position at the wall. We want the wall for support, but it is more comfortable generally to have your buttocks near into the wall. So we'll just fuss a little bit and do any movements necessary to get in close. If your hamstrings are tight, then do be a little further away from the wall so that you can stay there longer and the hamstrings are not going to be screaming at you. So I notice as soon as I get into a relaxing position, and this is one of the most relaxing for me, then I get a little tummy rumbling, a little peristalsis. So you might hear that on the recording. Viparita Karani is sometimes called a mudra being a gesture that is infused with meaning. So the shape of Viparita Karani, legs up, is the shape of a, I don't know, gesture of relaxation, yes, but receptivity. You've given yourself over to releasing the body, and you're still grounded, even though the legs are elevated. You're releasing the body towards, in this case, the soft prop, and to the floor. In a genuine spirit of letting go. And the exit from Viparita Karani, gentle and slow. So you might think about moving before you actually do. And first things first, begin to bend your knees and lower your legs. And instead of rolling to the side or a version of that, we're going to push back away from the wall. If you've had your hips elevated onto a prop, then come off the prop and take a cross-legged position, or Baddha Konasana, soles of your feet together. Let your knees drop out and soften the groins. And in the most leisurely way, as though you had all the time in the world, then begin to lift your knees again and roll to one side. Stay for a few breaths in side lying position. And then do use your hands, your arms to help you upright. I'll take a folded blanket again to sit on as we bring the session to a close. Have a seat. And start with your hands just resting in your lap, one hand cupped in the other hand. Drop your shoulders, relax your elbows, and then bring yourself into a comfortably upright position. Sometimes say upright but not uptight. And then, if it's comfortable for you, closing your eyes or casting your gaze downwards. Feel that the front chest is lifted and open. And then fold your hands and place your folded hands in front of your breastbone. Draw the elbows up and out a little. Feel the hands with equal pressure, right hand against the left, left against the right. And then incline your head towards your hands, actually really towards your heart. Feel in this process that you're elevating your heart and opening it and feeling the genuine warmth of your own heart. And this is something that we share with each other, with everyone, really. And especially as we say, Namaste. Thank you.